Hi, welcome to Missouri Outdoors. I'm Kip Woods, and I'm standing in an area as full of Missouri history and tradition as the Ozarks themselves. I'm speaking of the Ruth and Paul Henning State Forest just outside Branson. It's our stop today as we begin our 13-week tour of conservation lands all across the state. We've got a great show planned for you in the next half hour. We'll not only show you around the area, we'll also tell you how and why one of the most popular shows in television history, the Beverly Hillbillies, is connected with Henning State Forest. We'll also show you some of the prominent landmarks found here that appear in Harold Bell Wright's famous novel, The Shepherd of the Hills. And if that's not enough, we'll also take a look at spring courtship in Missouri. We'll see how and why the residents of our state find this time of year so appealing. Then we'll learn about black bears in Missouri. We'll show you how the Department of Conservation is studying their habits and habitat to make Missouri a more bearable place to live. And finally, we'll follow an urban arborist to learn more about the important work arborists do to help guarantee the continued success of our urban forests. It's all ahead in the next half hour. So to start things off, we'll be heading to one of the most famous locations from the book, The Shepherd of the Hills. And we'll also see why birds do it, bees do it, even educated fleas do it. It's spring courtship in Missouri, and it's next on Missouri Outdoors. Don't go away. Welcome back. If you've ever read The Shepherd of the Hills or know anything at all about the story, you'll recognize this area. It's Sammy Lane's Lookout, an area that plays a prominent part in the story. Harold Bell Wright, the man who wrote The Shepherd of the Hills, came to this part of the Ozarks at the turn of the century. Wright not only spent his time discovering the landmarks of the area, he also learned all there was to know about the people of the Ozarks, their history, and their simple lives. He then took this information and wove it into a tale of these hills, of simple people with direct ideals, and into a true Ozark love story, a story that's been made famous the world over. Another story you should be familiar with is the tale of spring courtship in our state. During the early months of each year, the forests, meadows, and grasslands of Missouri become alive with activity, as insects and reptiles, birds and mammals all heed the same instinctive call to begin a new generation of Missouri residents. And as you're about to see, these annual rites of spring are a continuation of the life cycle of our state.
How much do we really know about the animals? When the weather warms, trees glisten with the first brush of green, and life seems to quicken all around us. How is the urge to mate triggered? And what are the functions of the often unique mating rituals animals exhibit? Dennis Figg, Endangered Species Coordinator for the Missouri Department of Conservation, has a special interest in such questions. The creatures he deals with need to mate, or they'll cease to exist, giving his study an urgency that transcends the lyrical notions of animal courtship. Yet even in the midst of scientific inquiry, it's still possible to occasionally wonder at the beauty of this dance of life.
We're watching a group of about 12 prairie chickens out here on this high ridge. They select sites like this because by displaying up on this ridge, they can have the most effect for the prairie surrounding them. I mean, they could really attract the most attention. If you notice, it really is an attention-getting kind of activity. Not only is it very noisy, and we can hear them in the background, but in addition to that, they're stamping their feet on the ground, and they're doing little jousting activities, interacting with each other. And all these things are designed to show the females who is the strongest, the most vigorous, and potentially the most successful mate. Courtship is a way of choosing a mate, one who can pass on good traits. So some of the things that animals are normally known for, if you jump high, if you run fast, those same traits are used in courtship because they demonstrate that you have vigor. And so that's one of the things that a male or female will choose for. Very often people see animals active in the wild and they don't realize that some of the things they're seeing are a portion of courtship. So they wake up in the morning and they hear birds singing out in the front lawn, or they see animals running fast. They see rabbits jumping back and forth at each other, and it may look like play. They look like other activities, and they're really not aware that this is all part of courtship. And so courtship is going on around us very often, all the time. When the frogs are calling, I mean, you drive along an old farm lane and you hear frogs calling from a pond. The frogs aren't announcing to you that they're there. I mean, the frogs are making those noises to attract females so that there's opportunity for courtship. Whether there are romantic inclinations there, I don't know. In general, I make an assumption that romance is a human thing, that's a human preoccupation. But I'm not sure that I would recognize romance for these other species. I mean, it may be something subtle that's important to that species. Many of the clues of courtship are not well studied and not things we fully appreciate.
While looking at the beast, we cannot help but see a shadow of ourselves. And while the study of animal behavior cannot alone untangle the bewildering complexity of human interrelationships, it is interesting to note that the strange rituals of courtship are not limited to the animal kingdom.
I think studying animal courtship does say something about people and how people make selections. Maybe not how individuals make selections, but it reminds us that we too have activities that are fairly standard courtship activities, and that we're animals too. And we tend to think of ourselves not as animals, as separate kind of beings. But the fact is we too have sounds, scents, and we visually try to attract each other, and that we try to demonstrate our fitness. And I think if we think about the ways that males try to attract females, and vice versa, females try to let males know that they're interested, just like other animals, we make choices, and I don't think we should be surprised to learn that the animals make choices and in mate selection as well.
When we come back on Missouri Outdoors, we'll get a bird's eye view of Henning State Forest, and we'll learn about a new study being undertaken right here in southwest Missouri as we follow a group of biologists looking for black bears in the Show Me State. It's the Bear Facts, and it's next on Missouri Outdoors. Stick around. Hi, we're back. This is the top deck of the observation tower here at Henning State Forest. You know, the most amazing thing about this view is that it was made possible by a television show. In the mid-60s, a gentleman named Paul Henning had an idea for a show about a group of Ozark hillbillies who accidentally found oil on their land. They became so rich that they loaded up the truck and moved to Beverly Hills, that is. The Beverly Hillbillies became one of the most popular shows on television. And when Henning came to this part of the country, he became so impressed with the people and places in and around Branson that he bought this tract of land. Although the only hillbillies now seen in Branson are in music shows you'll find up and down the strip, there are still plenty of unusual sights to see in this part of Missouri. Bears, for example. The Department of Conservation recently began a study to determine the number of black bears crossing into our state from Arkansas. And although they're few and far between now, in the next few years, they may make this part of Missouri more bearable.
They do, to a lot of people, represent wildness and wilderness and pristine areas that we haven't spoiled. And so I think for that reason, they're very popular with some segments of the public, because they figure that if we can have a population of an animal like a black bear in the state of Missouri, then we're being respectful for the natural resources of the state, and we have a good attitude about wildlife.
I guess this is the spot, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it should be right down.
Oh, look, we got a winner here.
Hey, that's definitely a bear. Yeah, we got to put that.
There are new signs in the Ozarks. They're signs indicating that black bears, once native to Missouri, are again leaving their mark on the Show Me State.
Let's cheat on this one. There's canines in this thing.
What do you do to the trees?
Got scratch marks in that?
Sure do. We got one coming up here. We climbed up this tree.
You broke a branch off up here.
Broke the branch too.
When the first white settlers came to Missouri, they found abundant bears. With white settlement and more settlers coming in, a lot of them depended on bears for food. They sold the hides. Bears were over-harvested during a period of 30 or 40 years. And then most of the forests of Missouri were logged off completely all at one time. And settlers tried to farm these ridges in the Ozarks and found that it didn't work. But during that process, bears were removed from Missouri and most of Arkansas.
They started disappearing in the 1880s, and by the early 1900s, they were virtually gone. But today, 3 to 4 black bear sightings are being reported each week across the Ozarks. This resurgence of black bears in Missouri is due in part to a restocking program that began over 30 years ago in Arkansas.
They brought in 254 black bears from Minnesota and Manitoba, Canada, and released them in 3 different release sites in northwest Arkansas in the mountains of the Ozarks and the Ouachita Mountains. And it took several years before they realized that they had been successful. They thought that it was unsuccessful at first. But now they have a large population, probably 2,200 bears in Arkansas. And we're trying to find out how many bears we have in Missouri as a result of that restocking in Arkansas.
The process of determining the number of black bears now in Missouri is no easy chore. Last year, the Missouri Department of Conservation embarked on a 3-year study to determine the black bear count and improve their habitat.
This one might work. Caldwell.
Find a smooth tree here.
How about this one?
Ooh, that looks good.
Over 100 bait stations have been set up in Missouri to help in the study to locate and count black bears in the state. These bait stations consist of 3 partially open cans of sardines. They're tied together and hung from a tree about 8 to 10 feet off the ground.
Once he smells the bait and locates the bait, he can't reach it. He can't stand up on his hind legs and reach it. He's got to climb the tree or break the tree down, bend it over, leaving scratch marks on the bark. And then once he gets to the bait, he usually chews up the cans, trying to get the sardines out of the can. And we can tell by the size of the teeth marks if it's a bear or if it's a raccoon. We may have 100 to 300 bears in Missouri, something in that neighborhood. Very small population. I think the forests of Missouri are capable of supporting 2,000 or 3,000 bears.
The future of black bears adapting to their new surroundings in Missouri looks bright. But one big question remains. Can the people of Missouri adapt to the presence of black bears?
People have some misconceptions about black bears. They're big, they're very powerful, they've got a mouthful of teeth. And you see a lot of publicity about the grizzly bears out west attacking hikers and doing some damage and really terrorizing people. And a lot of people don't know the difference between a black bear and a grizzly bear. And in fact, they're very different behaviorally. Black bear is they're very retiring, they're reclusive, they're afraid of people. They don't consider people a source of food normally. 10 or 15 years ago, a person down here in the Ozarks that shot a black bear was looked up to as a hero because he rid them of a nuisance or a potential nuisance. Now, you shoot a black bear down here and you got the whole community looking down on you, wanting to prosecute the guy because he killed their bear. They're very protective. They're very proud of their bears. Somewhat like the turkeys were, say, 20 or 30 years ago when we were in the early stages of turkey restoration in Missouri. People were very protective of their turkeys. I think we're seeing that same attitude now with black bears.
When we come back on Missouri Outdoors, we'll venture off the beaten path here at Henning State Forest. We'll also show you what an urban arborist does. It may just look like they're trimming trees, but when it comes to the continued success of our state's urban forests, these folks are a cut above the rest. It's all next on Missouri Outdoors, so stay with us. Welcome back. This is Roerick Creek, which runs to the northern boundary of Henning State Forest. It's a pretty good hike to get here, but as you can see by the scenery, it's well worth the effort. Henning State Forest is over 1,500 acres of rocky forested land. About half the area here consists of open limestone glades, also known in this part of the country as balds. Another important part of the Ozark region is the forest, not only here in the Branson area, but in larger cities as well, such as Springfield. We recently visited a Springfield arborist who helps keep that city's urban forest flourishing. We discovered when it comes to this guy, going out on a limb is all in a day's work.
Yeah, when we was all kids, I think we all liked climbing trees. I guess that's where it started.
Gerald Merriman has a job with roots that go back to his youth. He's a journeyman tree trimmer for the Springfield City Utilities.
What I like best about my job is the atmosphere and working outside and being outside working around trees and trimming trees. You know, one day to the next, you never know what you're going to get into.
He moves from branch to branch around the tree with the skill and savvy that a veteran of 8 years in the canopies develops. But you'd be barking up the wrong tree if you thought this job was easy. Each move is carefully chosen with safety and purpose in mind.
Main concern is line clearance and try to stay away from them power lines, keep them limbs out of them lines. You got to think about safety all the time. The public is aware of us coming in and trimming their trees. They know what's got to be done. We're really concerned, you know, for the tree themselves, and people are getting really aware of what's going on out there, and they're trying to take care of the trees.
This urban arborist takes the tree climbing instincts of his childhood years and combines them with knowledge, skill, and confidence to scale the big trees and properly prune them so that both the utility and the landowner are happy. Knowledge is the key, and the Missouri Department of Conservation helps by releasing new information.
So we work closely with these commercial people, the utility arborists and the municipal arborists in advising on the proper methods of pruning. We serve as a conduit of the research that's being done and pass that on to those who are actually applying it on the ground. Recent research by people at universities and private companies have found that trees do respond to pruning. If it's done properly, it helps the tree. If it's done improperly, it hurts the tree.
And Gerald has helped many a tree. Along the way, he's developed his craft to such a high level that in 1990 he won first place in the International Society of Arboriculture Midwest Chapter Jamboree and placed high in the International Jamboree held in Canada. For this competition, he travels to Tulsa, Oklahoma to compete in the Midwest Jamboree. The weather conditions are far from ideal.
Good morning, I'm Brian Gann in the KVOO 24-hour news center. First off, a flash flood watch remains in effect for much of the eastern half of the state, and that does...
There's no lightning in the area, so the contest begins. Gerald wins the coin toss and is the first participant in the speed climb.
Go!
The competition is a good opportunity for tree climbers to show their skills, but it also gives them a chance to see others.
Gerald does well in the speed climb, but he's disappointed with his results in the throw line. Other jamboree events include an aerial rescue and the work climb.
Work climb is the most difficult. It's really strenuous. You got to take a lot of time and figure out where you're going to put your rope and how you're going to go up the tree.
This boy is good, let me tell you. You notice every movement counts? Every movement is thought through well. If you watch him, you'll see what I'm saying. He's very precise movements. Yeah, he's good, very good.
Another good score for Gerald. Judges rate each event on footing, technique, speed, and safety. Despite the pressure, these arborists find ways to cut the tension, from just kidding around to renewing old friendships.
Real well. How you doing in the competition? Don't know yet. Yeah? How about you, Jared? Don't know. You gonna walk away with it again this year?
Hoping. Don't look too good.
The aerial rescue event recognizes that in an emergency, a climber might have to save a comrade who is injured and unconscious. It's one skilled climber's hope they'll never have to use on the job.
Real nice job. Pretty good, Gerald. Good job, Gerald.
But this year, first place eluded him. Come Monday, he'll be back up in that tree, doing his job, taking with him a little he learned from the contest, and a little of the boy that got him started down this road.
Well, what do I like about my job? I just like climbing trees.
Well, that's it for another week. I hope you've enjoyed our tour of the area and that you'll stop in and see it for yourself the next time you're in Branson. If you'd like more information on Henning State Forest, on black bears in Missouri, on urban arborists in your town, or if you'd just like to say hi, drop me a line, Kip Woods, at Missouri Outdoors, P.O. Box 180, Jefferson City, Missouri, 65102. That's Missouri Outdoors, P.O. Box 180, Jefferson City, 65102. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed being with us as much as we've enjoyed showing you around. And don't forget, we'll do it again next week. But until then, if you get the chance, why not head out and enjoy Missouri's outdoors? That's where I'll be. See you next time.